Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. This is the In Deep on the Delta Weekly Fishing Report for October 12th. We'll start off with an outdoor sportsman show that's coming up this weekend, and that is the NorCal Sportsman Show. It's going to be held in Roseville this Saturday, October 14th, and Sunday, October 15th. It's going to be hunting, fishing, hiking, camping, everything outdoors. I think there's going to be some golf there. There's going to be a car show, a kids fair. They're going to have a trout pond, I believe, out there. So check out the NorCal Sportsman Show this weekend, 700 Event Center Drive in Roseville. So with that, let's get into the report. I was out Wednesday morning. I talked to the biologists that are out here and got some information from the biologists who are inspecting the subsurface vegetation right now. The spraying is done. They said, I didn't know this, but spraying was delayed by about 2 months this year, so they didn't have a lot of time to spray, and it's over now. So what you're seeing, if you see Fish and Game or Fish and Waterways boat out there, they are the biologists. They're saying that the river is in excellent condition biologically. I talked to them about the really muddy water down in the South Delta. It's no problem. That 1 foot of visibility that's chocolate melt, that is prime water. It's full of nutrients, and don't worry about it. I know the fishermen don't like it, that stuff down south and even out at Discovery Bay, but right now the vegetation is in really good shape and the river is in good shape. I can also tell you that there's a lot of bait in the water, and the fish that we are catching, although they're tough to catch, they are in good shape. You're catching a lot of these little 10 to 14 inch fish that look like they're miniature 10-pound fish, just big guts on them, short and fat, and they fight hard. They're not as big as I'd like them to be, but they're going to be big next year and the year after that. So the river's in good shape. River conditions out here, they can range from Central Delta being, I'll say 6-7 feet of visibility. Down south I saw Free Spooling Keith. He was out fishing, put up a video last week, and it looked like the water was chocolate brown. I'm sure he was down around Tracy Oasis. I know I get reports from Discovery Bay. It's still pretty dirty down there. I've been all over. I've been out almost every day for the last couple weeks. I did get a chance to go up to Liberty. Water temperatures up there were about 68, and the visibility was about, I'll say, 3 to 4 feet. Water temperatures in the Central Delta are still holding at 72. The fishing has been all over the board, and I think it has to do with the weather. We've had a couple of fronts come through. Air temperatures have changed from one day being 90 degrees down to 68 degrees. The barometer has been changing. We've had fronts come through, and boy, it's really putting the fish into very short bite windows throughout the day, and you have to be in the right place at the right time. I'm going to have a special guest come on here in a minute, Coach Ted, who's been out almost as much as I have. He's been pretty successful, and we'll talk to Ted and he'll give you some ideas on what he's been doing out here to be successful. Stripers, they are floating into the Central Delta more and more. Everyone that I talk to at the dock seems to be catching a few fish. It's not wide open, and it's getting incrementally better every week. Most guys here in the Central Delta are fishing live bait. They're going out catching bluegill, which are easy to catch right now. The bluegill are on a tear. Everybody that I see fishing bluegill has had a stringer of them. And like I said, everybody that I've talked to, they're fishing around the main channel, around where they have current, and just drifting live bait. They're catching fish. The bite is still on out at Liberty. I caught a nice one on a spinnerbait out there just fishing for largemouth bass. And I think this week I actually caught 3 nice stripers on either spinnerbait, jerkbait. I caught another one on a topwater. The Fish King, who's a friend of mine, he works 40 hours a week, has a couple kids. He comes out on the weekends, and he's a good angler, just got a new boat. He's learning Liberty Island, doesn't know that area. He's been going up there, and just a weekend guy, you know, a couple of kids, catching fish out there every weekend. He's learning more and more, and he's having a good time. So I think right now, if you're an average guy, you go out on the weekends, you're probably going to catch some striper. Okay, let's get right into largemouth bass, and we'll start off with the Big Fish Challenge. I don't know what they're calling it anymore. It's the tournament that they had this weekend. And this tournament is not a 5 fish heaviest limit. It's every hour 5 fish get weighed in, and the 5 heaviest fish get a prize. So every hour there's 5 chances to win a prize. If you put that all together, 6 hours, you have 30 chances to win a prize the first day. Saturday, Sunday, you got a 6-hour tournament, you have 30 more chances. So you have 60 chances to weigh in a fish and cash a check. Out of those 60 spots, I believe 43 of them, a fish that was either in the 2-pound class or the 3-pound class won a cash prize. That is unheard of. I remember fishing that tournament years ago, and it was like if you didn't have a 4-pound fish, you didn't even weigh it in. Big fish of the tournament was 7.7 pounds. There were only 6 fish over 5 pounds. Generally, I don't know how many boats were in this year, but generally they have about 150 boats fishing 2 days, team tournament. And, you know, that's very, very tough fishing conditions. Great tournament. I'm not saying the tournament was a flop. It's always a fun tournament to fish. Everybody that fishes it has a lot of fun, and whether you catch a 4-pound fish or a 10-pound fish, if it's the first place fish and you win your $500 or whatever it may be, you're still proud of that 4-pound fish. It's just that the results of that tournament were extremely tough. The big fish just aren't on a bite. Coinciding with that is I've talked to some of my friends down south, down in the San Diego area, and they fish the chain of big fish lakes down there. They're saying the exact same thing down south as we're saying up here. They're catching the males, 2 and 3 pound fish, but those big fish this year have disappeared for them. They're just not catching big fish down there. They didn't die off. It's just a tough year to catch big fish, and that's all I could say. So with that, how's the largemouth bass fishing going? It's up and down day to day along with the weather. Let's turn it over to Coach Ted. Here's a little interview I did with Coach Ted. He'll give you his idea on what he's been doing, and then I'll finish it up with what I've been doing, and we'll see what goes on next week. Take it over, Ted. So I got Coach Ted here. Ted, you've been out 3-4 days a week, maybe 5 days a week the last couple weeks. You're fishing hard. You've been on the fish. You got a 10-3 week or so ago. We've been out today. We've been on them. We haven't got a 10-3, but we've got some nice fish, and we're catching fish on jerk baits. And I know a week ago you were punching. You've been throwing rattle traps. What's the key for your success the last 2 weeks? And you've been on them for a couple of weeks.
Versatility, right? This is fall. Fish are moving constantly on the feed, and you've just got to find the fish. So don't get locked into what worked for you yesterday or even what worked for you in the morning, because it may completely change out here by afternoon or the next day.
How about colors? I knew when you were punching, you were throwing a lot of purple.
A lot of purple and reds. And I'm still throwing that if I'm punching, but you know, everything else out here is imitating shad patterns. So if I'm searching for fish, I'm throwing shad colors.
And you know what you might be able to do, I know you'll share this, show everybody that stunner and tell them what how you rig that up and how you adjust that. And while Ted's getting that out, we were both fishing jerk baits here. We're going to do an evening fishery, but from about 2 to 4:30, we probably had about 20 fish in the boat, all on jerk baits. And I was throwing a Mega Bass 110. Ted, you're throwing that stunner, and you modify this. So give them a look at that and let them know what you do to modify that.
Sure. Like everybody else who objects to paying $30 for a Mega Bass product, I love buying these Berkley Stunners, and this is a black and shiny white. And what I do is I just take it and a sharp little thin bladed knife, and I scratch all of the shiny paint off of it right down to where you can see paint still embedded in the scales. And then, like all my jerk baits, I change out to a stouter hook and a heavier split ring. So I'm running Gamakatsu extra strong hooks on mine, but the little bit bigger hook lets it sink a little faster. And it's a very natural color, a black back, a little orange under the chin, and then just a scale pattern with some paint still left in it. But now I've got a $10 jerk bait out here to tie up into the Delta weeds instead of a $30 jerk bait.
And one of the things too, a lot of times like these stunners or something may go on sale, and they'll be an odd color. So think about that. If you can get the odd color baits, it may not have to be a stunner, but it could be any bait. I never thought about that, of taking a knife and just scraping off the color. Bring that back up here, because as Ted was catching them on that, I was catching them on the $25 Mega Bass, and I like this matte color, and I kind of looked at Ted's, and look how close those are. Again, this is a nicer color. I don't have a black back, but the sides are almost identical. That's come from scraping off the old paint. This one came from a $25 paint job, and they're very similar, but we were both catching numbers of fish. I caught a lot of small fish on this. I think you got bigger fish today. You had one about 3 pounds, and had one huge fish that came up and took a whack at it. I got a striper on this that was, well, I didn't land him, but it was a nice striper.
It was a big fish.
Yeah.
But I think part of that, Steve, is, again, just I think the bigger hooks and split rings, my sink rate's a little faster than yours, and I was just getting a little further down, and so getting up some of the bigger fish.
Yeah, and one thing I might add, we were catching our fish about 10 to 15 feet offshore over the trough, the weed bed that separates the trough from the bank. So think about that too. When you're throwing those jerk baits, just don't run down the bank, right?
Yeah, absolutely, especially with current out here, because these fish are sitting actually in those weeds looking at stuff to come by, and they love to use that trough as a trap. So a lot of times they'll sit in there looking inward on that trough, as much as the smaller fish a lot of times sit on the rocks looking at stuff coming through that trough. So fish everywhere.
And so what we had to do was pull off a little farther. We seemed to be getting fish by casting very close to the bank, but the fish would not pick it up. They'd intercept it out at the trough. So it was important to position your boat in the right spot, but don't position it right over the trough. Stay out from that trough about 20, 30 feet so you can pull your baits over it. So thanks for that information. And again, Ted's a professional, non-professional fisherman that's out here, and just another guy that's willing to give up some information every now and then. I think a lot of guys are going to like that stunted deal where you can scrape the paint off. So thanks for all that information,
anytime,
Ted. And all right, big thanks to Ted for giving us that information. And man, check out that little hack he does with a jerk bait. You might be impressed on how that works. So what have I been doing out here? Like I said, I've been out almost every week from the Central Delta. I got one chance to go up to Liberty. Had a good day up there. Man, the wind was blowing steady 15 to 18, gust to 20, 25. We had to really kind of duck into places that the wind allowed us to fish. My partner, the Shermanator, and I, we probably caught 25 fish. A lot of small fish, fish up to about 3 pounds, but they were easier to catch. Most of our fish up there were on spinner baits and worms. I want to thank the NorCal Angler for putting me onto some of those fish and giving me a heads up on what's going on out there. And the day that we were up there with the barometer jumping around, I didn't get a real good idea on any patterns that might be happening up north. Now, down in the south, as Ted said, it's day to day. The bite windows are short, some of them 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If you're not in the right place at the right time, you're not going to catch a fish. I would say stick to rock banks that have vegetation on them, and they don't have to have tules. They can have hyacinth that's blown into them. They all have good, clean vegetation on, but a lot of these banks that have like a bow in them that kind of has moving water pushing into that bow, that's where the bait is holding up, and a lot of the fish are holding offshore. You want jerk baits, chatter baits, spinner baits, and crankbaits in whites, shad colors. That's what's been doing it for me. I've been catching fish on worms around Thule Islands. My morning bite and evening bite, that's when I'm getting a lot of my bigger fish, but it is just not worth it. I'm not getting multiple fish. It seems like when I get a big fish, I catch one right early in the morning or right as it gets dark, and you catch a couple other fish, and I just don't think, I keep saying this every week, I'm not going out at 4:30 in the morning, and then I get up early and I'm out there. I don't think this week I'm going to do that. It's just not paying off enough for me to get up early or stay out. The mosquitoes have been treacherous at right before dark. That's another. Here's the rub. This weather's coming in. Nights are colder. It's windy today. It's cold. We're going to have winter coming on. You might have 2 weeks. You might have a month to get out here and enjoy the final fall fishing. And then, man, I hope it doesn't happen. I'm not predicting this, and I wouldn't, wish it on any of you guys. But if we have another winter bite like we did last year, it's going to just get ugly out here for about 2 or 3 months. So with that, get out here, get your fish now. When that water temperature starts dropping below 60 and it starts getting nasty out here, I think we're going to be in for another tough winter. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, if you catch a fish, you want to send it to scooper let me spell this, SCOOPER 9561032 @gmail.com. You can send me your pictures and your reports. Please keep those reports coming in. Even if you're not catching fish, it gives me a good idea what's going on out here. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the water.